All right, everyone, welcome back once again to this Beefcast production. Game number 3 in this best of 3 series, deciding who's going to be going to the semifinals of the Buzz Open number 2. Joining me once again is Snow. Shay, you excited about game number 3?
I'm excited. First rubber match of the tournament for us.
Yeah, I am looking forward to this one. This is going to be, like you said, our first game 3 and our first game on Entombed Valley. So, a game of firsts, certainly better than my first time. All right, let's get started here on Entombed Valley in the bottom right hand.
Both of us.
In the bottom right hand corner of Entombed Valley, the blue Terran, our runner up from Buzz Open number 1, DarkShadow.
And in top right, facing up, Medke, the red Protoss.
Yeah, Medke asking right there, is it cross only? Some of these maps, like Antigua Shipyard, are in fact cross only. Entombed Valley is not. So you can have close positions here. Barracks going to be going down as the probe almost got the block there. Even the probe going to be moving out to harass. How do you feel about probes harassing SCVs that are building there, Shay?
Oh, this is part of the game. You just gotta deal with it. Stay calm.
Stay calm and repair your SCV, right?
Just stay calm. Throw another SCV on it. Don't reach for F10.
You'd never rage out just because your SCV was getting harassed a little bit, right? Oh,
no,
the probe
I
actually goes
prefer
down.
that it happens, and then sometimes that happens, which is even better. You kill the...
Yeah, that's where you drop a C at on the opposing player. And it's actually looking like double gas coming up for our Protoss player right now, so it could be going for a very tech-oriented build, certainly not the 4-gate that we did see last game. With that double gas, he's going to be able to produce a lot of either high-tech units or gas-intensive units, so he could be going for some early sentries here and trying to expand or tech behind that. We will have to see after all. Second supply depot going to be going down, making sure that his opponent does not get a read on what he's going. DarkShadow wants to be a little bit secretive right here with that gas coming down as well. His opponent does not know about that gas, and DarkShadow doesn't even know where his opponent is at this point.
And he's dropping a bunker at the top of his ramp, so perhaps not going to race right into that quick expansion either.
Yeah, it looks like he could be content to sit on one base for a little while here. And with that one gas working, we'll see what he chooses to do. Could be going for something like non-cloak Banshees, could be even going for something like early drop play. DarkShadow is just shown to be a man with a lot of plans, so we'll see how he goes ahead and attempts this one. With a lot of gas income over here, our Protoss is going to be...
and canceled, what I think was a factor, yes.
That's rather interesting. I wonder why he did
for T-Rex.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting why he went for that factory, like you said, and then canceled it immediately. Going up to 3 racks off of one base right here. No expansion in sight. Could be looking to put a lot of aggression in. And DarkShadow actually kind of reeling from his own medicine. Getting 4-gated there in that last game. Kind of taking that into the next game where he doesn't want to lose to that again. Dropping 2 bunkers off of one base. Really wants to be careful here as the tech lab is going to be going down. Possibly looking like this is just going to be 3 racks off of one base right now. This is a lot of production off of one base. Do you think he's going to be able to support this off of one base economy?
I mean, depends what comes out of that factory.
Oh,
if it's
brilliant.
just tanks.
Stutter step micro there from DarkShadow. Evacuates the Marines from that bunker and is able to take down the scouting stalker. Total of 3 Yates coming out right now for our Protoss player, in addition to the Twilight Council and the Dark Shrine. So that is very much so the heavy tech, heavy gas play that I was expecting. Do you think that DarkShadow is going to be in a position that he's going to be able to defend this?
Well, I mean, the X factor is going to be the Templars, because he doesn't even have an eBay down yet. And with only one base, if he doesn't happen to have 50 energy and in a good position, there's going to be nothing he can do against that.
The one good thing in DarkShadow's position is that he has a very nice wall off right here. He's got plenty of time to be able to defend that and accumulate some energy for a scan. So we'll see how this one does come out. He's triple producing Marauders right now. What do you think about that position?
DTs now. I think it's good. It would be a good idea in the sense that he's probably assuming Stalkers are coming out. But Also a Hellion, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I think he just wants to produce.
It looks like he's trying to bait a scan here.
Yeah.
With one Templar attacking his supply depot.
Yeah, and without a engineering bay down right now, that Dark Templar is going to be relatively effective. Even a Hellion going to be shooting at his own supply depot there, wants to be able to get the lineup correctly, and finally is actually going to get a read on that Dark Templar. This is actually some really nice targeting coming out of DarkShadow right now.
That was very clever.
And so with a couple of SCVs there,
he's actually going to let him kill it. Wow.
Yeah, that's wow. Good job from DarkShadow. Really unfortunate there from our Protoss player. That missile turret is going to be going up there right now. The Templar does peek up and see that, but the nice thing is that this is keeping DarkShadow contained to just one base right now. DarkShadow just has no opportunity to expand, whereas his opponent already has a working Nexus and is going to start saturating that with a couple of defensive sentries back at home. I think Medke could be in a pretty good position right now to just take a large economic lead and then be able to capitalize on that throughout the rest of the game.
He's also researching Zealot Charge and getting an Observer out.
Yeah, with that Observer going out right there and Zealot Charge going to be researched, he could very well be going into Charge Slot Archon, making use of the High Templar, or excuse me, the Dark Templar to morph Archons. So we'll see about that. Did the last Dark Templar end up falling? It did.
It did, yep.
Yeah, so...
He had to use a scan, lost a Hellion and an SCV though, so...
And DarkShadow is finally going to be able to move out and take his expansion. I think it's a little bit unfortunate that he didn't build a command center already up on the high ground so that it was able to lift out immediately. But the... Oh,
Observer,
man.
nothing left of that.
Yeah, the missile turret goes up at the absolute perfect time to absolutely waste that Observer. The Marines and Marauders are going to be able to find the proxy pylon down here, and they will be making their way out to take that out relatively quickly. Back at home, the Zealots and the Sentries keeping watch on the Nexus. Let's take a look at Harvester counts, 35 probes to 26 SCVs right here, working off of only one orbital command. The Protoss is in a relatively substantial lead, and seeing that his opponent does have a lot of Marauders out on the field, an Immortal follow-up is going to be the choice for our Protoss player here, working off of a total of 5 gates now. We'll see if he does make use of that Dark Shrine any further, as one DT is in fact going to be warped in. 2 DTs now going to be warped in. We'll see if those do merge into an Archon or if they'll be used in their individual form after all.
Well, there's a scan. Sees the Immortal, but I don't believe he catches either of those DTs.
He might have. I'm not entirely sure.
Barely one by top one.
And a Warp Prism actually going to be produced here. How do you think this Warp Prism is going to come into play?
Well, I mean, this is always the dreaded morphing, or excuse me, dropping of the DTs, but also you might do some slick stuff, pick up that Immortal. There's really not that many Marines out there.
It's true. Starport going to be attached to a Tech Lab over here. I'd actually be kind of interested to see if a Raven might come out. We'll see if that is indeed the choice, as the Warp Prism is going to be making its way across the field, not loaded up with anything for the time being. There are, however, a lot of charge lots out on the field right now, a total of 12 charge lots out. However, with concussive shells and stim, actually concussive shells not researched. That's got to be an oversight, right?
Well, especially with charge, although he doesn't necessarily know he has charge.
Yeah.
It's like you definitely want to be worried about it.
Warp Prism coming into phasing mode over here, and it's actually going to get into a brilliant position as 3 DTs do warp in. And there's actually a missile turret already in position, but how many kills are these DTs going to be able to get before the army does come over here and clean up? And let's take a look here, as the missile turret does actually fall, so this is actually going to force a scan, and the DTs are just going to continue to harass here, and the scan is baited, but the DTs actually make their way away. Is there enough energy for a second scan? We're about 8 seconds away from the second scan over here, as the engineering bay is going to be the secondary target, but the scan's going to come out here in about 3 seconds. The engineering bay will fall, but there's already going to be a missile turret going up. Will he scan? He's actually just trying to wait until that engineering bay, or that missile turret does in fact finish up. And as the DTs do in fact get a little bit closer over here, and look at that right there. If he had had concussive shells, he would have been able to catch those DTs. And
Yep.
one DT still going to manage to escape down onto the low ground where it will fall. So nice job from DarkShadow being able to conserve as many scans as possible. But
And
a big warp
for
in.
Zealots now.
Yeah, a warp in of 4 Zealots there. But that is spotted very quickly by the supply depot. Zealot's going to be looking to get in there into the mineral line once again. But the Tech Lab does in fact fall here on that starport. But with the first Raven coming out right there, the Raven is out, the detection is there, and nothing else is needed. Back at home, continued macro from both these players. Both these players going to be accumulating a pretty large bank at this point.
If you notice, there was actually a secondary Zealot drop on the low ground.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, and those Zealots forcing the evacuation once again of the low ground and the mineral line. Take a look right now at workers. And 44 probes to 33 SCVs, but working with triple orbital commands right now. So DarkShadow is in a decent economic position. However, with the Protoss player back at home continuing to macro up, using that large bank of his, dropping a ton of pylons, doesn't want to get blocked anymore, and even double forge coming out in addition to his gateways, bringing him up all the way to 6 gateways, and the Robo Bay coming down. Protoss player just looking to continually macro up behind this. Even turning all those DTs back at home into Archons. Like I said, going for that Charge Lot Archon composition with Immortals, and even going to be adding Colossi into the mix here. I think that the 3-base Terran is going to have a relatively hard time defending this if he doesn't bump his infrastructure up quite a bit, although there are 4 additional barracks coming down at this point, and that's exactly what he needs to deal with this army, although he has no clue that Colossi is going to be the choice here for the time being. And we'll see if he manages to get some Vikings onto the field. Factory on the left side of the map over here, spotting for any kind of warp prisms coming in from that direction as the army starts to take out the destructible rocks, and even a large scan coming down. The army composition perfectly spotted there by DarkShadow. Extended thermal lance about halfway done here as the first Colossus is going to pop out any second. And seeing those Colossus...
There's 3 base to 2 here, so... It's not necessarily a foregone conclusion yet, even with all the economic damage done to DarkShadow.
Yeah, definitely. And Vikings even starting to make their way out onto the field as the SCVs have closed the gap here on the Protoss. And I think the Terran is actually in an economic lead at this point. And with those Vikings, he's in a good position to be able to deal with the Colossi. Even a couple of Ghosts coming down.
6 Zealots down here at the 3rd.
Yep. And that's going to force, once again, another evacuation from that mineral line, and even going to be putting some damage here onto the orbital command. If the Terran army is not able to get there fast enough because he's not killed those rocks, this orbital command is going to be forced to lift. Not going to be on fire just yet. But with these Zealots going to be coming in there, they do manage to get us around onto one of the Hellions, and even manage to almost take out 2 different Marauders, but another large warp in up here on the high ground. The warp prism does fall, but with 5 of those Zealots out there, they're going to manage to put a lot of hurt onto these Marauders. 1 Marauder does end up falling, 2 Marauders, and even a 3rd Marauder going to fall. 4 Marauders and a Marine going to be killed by those Zealots. These Zealots actually doing a very good job right now, as medevacs are starting to be added in addition to a couple of those Vikings. And something important to note here from our Protoss player is that he did in fact see the Ghost Academy. Double Ghost Academies coming down. He only saw 1 of them. So these Ghost Academies could very well start researching Mobius Reactor, Personal Cloaking, or even a nuke simultaneously. A second Robo facility is going to be coming out here for our Protoss player. Going to be starting double Colossi production very soon here, and that is going to be absolutely deadly for our Terran player, whose Viking count is relatively low at this point, only at 2 Vikings, and not even continuing to make those Vikings. He's really looking like he wants to counter the army using his Ghosts, but unfortunately Ghosts don't do too well against Colossi, although EMP, a nice composition against any Protoss army. 3 DTs starting to make their way in over here for the Protoss player, looking like they want to get into the 3rd base. And with no missile turrets in sight and those supply depots a little bit late, we'll see how the Terran player is going to react. A couple of those mules going to get sniped immediately, and the Terran player is slow to react here, still hasn't started moving. Every one of the workers at the 3rd is going to fall, and without a quick lift on this orbital command is actually going to be taking a ton of damage. He needs to get a repair on that. It's got about 30 seconds before that thing burns down to the ground. And a couple of SCVs finally going to start to make their way over. At the same time, the Raven has made a little bit of a drop-off over here at the Protoss Natural as well, cleaning up a couple of probes, forcing some probes off of the line. So with the Protoss army composition right here, how as a Terran player would you feel approaching that? How would you like to approach that? Do you want to be defensive? And in what way would you want to engage that army?
Well, I think the factor for me is whether or not he knows if that third is taken, and I don't know that he does.
The Marines that were camped there at the third for a while did spot the probe wanting to place that down. So I think he knows that the Protoss at least wanted to take the third. But as far as confirmation, he does actually know. Something gave him a clue, but he did see, in fact, that has been placed. A couple of probes making their way onto the map right now, placing some proxy pylons. A total of 3 pylons, 4 pylons going to be going down right now. Protoss player looking to get very aggressive as the first ghosts are going to be making their way out there. Moby's Reactor and Cloak are both done, and there's no observer with this army right here. The only observer on the map is not there, but big EMP's going down on all the army. All the Zealots completely out of shields right now. But the problem is that even with all those units completely out of shields, he doesn't have to engage now. He just lost all 6 of his Zealots, and he can just walk back and wait for his shields to recharge. However, the Protoss...
Yeah, it's strange engagement. I mean, it makes sense to get up there, hit the EMP, and follow up, but there's no follow-up.
Yeah, and the Terran player wants to go ahead and try to follow up there, but forcing his way into an army that big, he manages to take down one of the Colossi, but loses all of his Vikings in the process, and the Colossi just swiping away at all these Marauders. The Marauders doing a nice job of kiting all the charge shots, but with each charge, those Zealots do in fact take one swipe, and a big flank from all the DTs over here as the Zealots start to chop away at the supply depot wall, and I think our Protoss player is actually just going to be in shape to take game number 3 here.
Yeah, this looks very, very dark right now. Yeah. Your DarkShadow.
Yeah, DarkShadow, our favorite player from the series number 1, from event number 1. He drops the Manor Mules there, and he's just waiting to kind of gain his composure again before he taps out of this one. But absolutely beautiful macro play here from Medke, relying on his opponent's just reluctance to try to be aggressive and just being scared that he was going to get 4-gated again. Relied on that, was able to take a large macro lead and just able to get a brilliant composition here in the late game. And GG comes out of DarkShadow. The series goes to the Protoss player Medke. Very well played.
I'd like to point out that at the end, that was a 24-minute game, and both players were not particularly going after their upgrades, but especially for the Terran player, when you're facing Protoss like that, you really, really, really want those upgrades. You want to go up as fast as you can, especially when you're EMPing. You want your Marines and Mars to be able to just rip them apart as soon as those shields go away. And sitting only at +1 upgrades made that encounter all the worse for him. Really.
Yeah, all that splash damage against that pure bio army right there, losing those ghosts, not being able to snipe down any kind of sentries or any zealots, anything like that, just being able to get those EMPs off really was the beginning of the end there for DarkShadow. Constant harassment by the Protoss player, buying him the macro game, and able to get into a brilliant composition and a nice engagement. Very well played there by Medke, but congratulations to DarkShadow for moving along as far as he did. Hope to see him at Buzz Open number 3 when that comes around. But good game. We'll be moving on to the semifinals. I've been your casting host, Beef. Joining me, Snow. Any closing words, Shay?
I think I've said my piece.
All right. We will see you guys in the next game.